this beat in unison gets the whole leg. And when we think about the lymphatic system and how that works, when the muscle pumps, it squeezes the lymphatic system and drives that fluid up the leg. And so this in unison pump, we feel like gets a better flush of the entire muscle over time.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Excellence in Motion, sponsored by NRG Physiotherapy. I'm here at Dogfight Fitness in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm with Dr. Chad, and we're going to talk about the comparisons, the pros, the cons of two popular recovery devices, the Compex and the Marc Pro Plus. We love using one of these devices for all of our athletes. It's a great way for them to recover and relax after hard, intense workouts, but there's some big differences between the two. And I want to help you by giving you as much information as possible so that if you're in the buying decision stage of getting a recovery device like this, you're as informed as possible. So this is an in-depth comparison. We're going to give a demonstration on an athlete towards the end of the video. Chapter markers will be listed throughout below so you can skip ahead to the parts that you want to pay attention to. But Dr. Chad's going to give a big explanation at the get-go. Then we're going to work on an athlete, show you how these devices work in action. If you want to use a discount code for the Marc Pro, that's going to be listed down below in the description, as well as any information regarding each of these devices and NRG Physio related information. So without further ado, we're going to get into the video, and until next time, go out, do good things, and don't forget to move. I'll see you guys in the next one.
Hey, what's up? Dr. Chad here with NRG Physio. Gonna go over for you today some popular recovery devices in the market and some key differences between the two, and ultimately why we choose one over the other. So what we have here is Compex, and we have a Marc Pro Plus. And just right off the bat, you're gonna see some key differences in just packaging. The Compex comes with your drawstring. It comes with a very specific style of electrode, and the Marc Pro actually comes with a really nice carry case. So in terms of portability, they both package up and can go anywhere, but in terms of protecting your device, this one definitely comes with a little more robust carrying case that packages everything up in a way that's a little more streamlined, keeps everything in its place, and even gives you a little aloe here to rehydrate your skin in case you need a little boost in connectivity with your pads. So we're going to get into the specifics of both of these units, and then we're actually going to jump over into an actual athlete video who's experiencing both of them at the same time. We'll kind of talk through some of those same concepts as you see it in action. So first thing I want to draw your attention to is Compex has 4 leads, which is nice. This means you can cover a lot of body areas at the same time. It also means you have more wires to manage, more buttons to manage, and more functions to manage, versus the Marc Pro Plus, which has 2 leads, so you can't cover as much territory at the same time, but it is a little easier to manage this device as a result of that. So we'll kind of dig in here to the device itself, and I want you to know we're viewing these devices as strictly recovery devices, which in terms of recovery, Marc Pro is a recovery device. Compex actually has some nice options available on it to use that are different than recovery, but we're just comparing these two today as a strict recovery device for post-workout recovery for athletes. So looking at the Compex here, just in terms of usability, you turn the thing on and you can see all your options here. So we got potentiation, endurance, resistance, strength, explosive strength, and then down at the bottom you have the active recovery. It shows you here how you're going to toggle through these. So we got up and down here on this one, and then next is going to be this far button over here. And so for today, we're going to scroll down to active recovery, and then we're going to bump it over, and it allows you to select your body area. And in terms of actual use, you can hook these up anywhere, and it doesn't change much about how the device feels and functions. But for the sake of our athlete today, we're on the quads, but we actually had some quads and calves going on at the same time. But you can select your body part. So we got abdominals, glutes, quads, lower leg. You can get up here into the upper extremity as well, the torso, the upper arm, the lower arm, and then you can cycle back through there. So whatever your body part is, you choose that, you go next, and then you click start, and then that allows you to turn up your functions there to get the device rolling. We're not going to do that. There's no leads connected, so it's not going to let us actually put any energy out of that. So we're just going to stop this guy and turn it off. So with the Compex, you have several options of ways to use this. But in terms of recovery, that's essentially how the device works, and you'll see the difference when we kind of flash forward to the athlete. Now looking at the Marc Pro, it's a little different. There's an obvious size difference here, but it's a pretty simple device to use. You turn it on, and then basically we've got two settings here. We've got low frequency and high frequency. In terms of electric stimulation units, both of these frequencies are very low. High is only high compared to this low frequency, which is incredibly low. And so the basics are push power, select your setting, turn the dial. Turn it up to your tolerance, the desired effect that you want, and that's it. So it's very simple to use. You put the electrodes on. It comes with a booklet that gives you kind of popular best effect electrode placements. Both of those devices come with that, so you can know where to place the electrodes for what you're trying to target. But in terms of ease of use, this was very simple. Turn it on, select your setting, turn the dial to your tolerance. And for either of these, probably a minimum therapeutic dose is going to be 30 minutes plus. So I'm going to turn this guy off. Now let's get into the differences in how these things function. You're going to see when these are on the athlete that this one has a very fast-paced contractile mechanism. This one's a very slow. I think 60 beats per minute is what the Marc Pro is. This one's a very fast fasciculation in the muscle. Both of them are designed to contract the muscle in a way that brings in blood flow and flushes out kind of post-exercise waste and fluid that's developed in the muscle. And in doing that, it will speed your recovery. You're going to reduce soreness drastically. You're going to improve blood flow to repair muscle tissue that's been broken down. And so that's the goal for both of these from a recovery perspective, but how they do it is much different. So clinically, as physios, we choose the H-Wave device itself. H-Wave is the parent company for the Marc Pro Plus, and by all accounts is the same device. The H-Wave, however, is FDA approved for pain for the clinical setting. So in our clinical practice, we choose H-Wave for our patients. But in terms of our athletic population, in terms of self-care management, self-pain management, and self-recovery management, we prefer the Marc Pro Plus because, one, it's a dedicated device to help them specifically manage pain and recovery. The device is very simple to use, and it's a dedicated recovery device. So we really like devices that do one thing and do it really well. And it's simply our opinion, to each his own, and some people are going to love Compex and not like the Marc Pro as much, and there are definitely pros and cons between these devices. But in terms of our preference for our athletes, we like the Marc Pro Plus. Some of the pros of the Compex is that it does have other options for you to use. So if you are an athlete seeking more on the side of an accessory to strength training, explosive training, that also has a recovery aspect to it, Compex may be the more obvious choice for you. But if you're an athlete who is looking for a dedicated recovery device, that's going to tilt us a little more towards the Marc Pro. In terms of functional fitness, having more leads available to you to target more body areas at the same time, one pro of the Compex is it is a little more time efficient, but because you could actually target upper and lower and more muscles at the same time using this device versus the two channels on the Marc Pro. That also gets us into some cons. The Compex device, having more leads, requires more electrodes, and a quick search online will reveal that these specific style of snap electrodes in the center of this 2x2 square, they're actually a more expensive electrode to purchase. And with 4 leads going at the same time, you'll be burning through 8 electrodes at the same time, whereas Marc Pro, we're only using 4 electrodes at a time. And so that brings us to maybe one of the biggest points that people are gonna use to choose which device that they're gonna pick for their recovery. And that is the price point. Now the price point here on the Marc Pro Plus, if I remember right, is $13.99. So it's one of those kind of Cadillac devices. It comes at a much higher price point versus the Compex is gonna come in at just, I think $299, $399. We'll have to verify that and we'll put it on the screen on the video, the exact price of the unit. But the thing to consider is over long-term use, which we assume if you're gonna buy one, you're gonna use one. This is gonna cost you more up front and less over time, whereas this one's gonna cost you less up front and more over time, simply because Marc Pro Plus, you can buy these pigtail style electrodes that are gonna come in around $2 a pack, versus Compex electrodes, searching online, you're gonna find these for anywhere from $7 to $10 a pack. So what we're looking at here is a pack of 10 for about 20 bucks and a pack of 5 for $35 to $50. And so thinking about price point up front, it's really about, do you wanna make less of an investment over the long haul or less of an investment immediately? We'd love to see any questions and comments you have. Feel free to post those below the video. Happy to help you walk through anything. Happy to talk through some other differences in these devices if you have questions about that. But this is kind of a broad spectrum overview of how each device works, what are some of the pros and cons of each device, and how you can use them as a recovery device for your specific style of training to help you recover faster, which means you can train harder, sooner, get better performance. All right, so we got left leg on the Compex, we got right leg on the Marc Pro Plus, and right off the bat you can see a difference in how these two devices function. We can see a very fast fasciculation on the left with the Compex, and we got this more kind of slow, methodical beat in unison on the Marc Pro. We got both running on the quads and the calves, so this is a full leg flush for both devices. And we're looking at these two strictly as recovery devices. So some of the differences between these two is Compex has some other options for some other things, potentiation, strengthening. We're not gonna get too far out in the weeds on that type of stuff. We'll scroll through that in some comparisons, but strictly for a recovery device, these two are very different. What we're gonna notice is that this beat in unison gets the whole leg. And when we think about the lymphatic system and how that works, when the muscle pumps, it squeezes the lymphatic system and drives that fluid up the leg. And so this in unison pump, we feel like gets a better flush of the entire muscle over time. Also, this large scale muscle contraction, it's very robust. It's a pretty hard hit. What do you think? They feel quite a bit different? Yeah, so when we're thinking about recovery, we really want to follow this groceries in, garbage out type of concept where these bigger, more kind of visceral muscle pumps are really going to increase blood flow in a way that's quite a bit different than these small scale fasciculations. So thinking about muscle damage post-workout, flushing all that stuff out and then bringing blood flow back in to heal the tissues. This is a big push in the right direction for recovery. Now, both of these are gonna get blood flow increase. Both of these are gonna get a flush through the leg to speed the recovery cycle, and that's what we're using this for. But they are gonna do that in a little bit different way. Just from a guinea pig perspective, which do you like more?
The right leg, like, it feels smoother. Like it's not as the contractions are a little further between, like farther apart.
Yep.
The left leg it's contracting way faster, and it's like I'm kind of fighting off cramps in my left leg a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So that's kind of straight from somebody who's experiencing both at the same time. Now, comfort could be different for anybody. Some might think the faster thing is more comfortable. Some might think this is more comfortable. But you just have one guy's viewpoint on how he is experiencing them both at the same time. A couple of key differences between the two units is this has some other options than the Marc Pro Plus, but the two key things we're really after in terms of athletic performance is how are we managing pain and how are we managing muscular recovery. Both of these devices do it, but they do it in a very different way. The Compex is going to handle the muscle pump piece through this fast fasciculation. It's going to handle the pain piece through what's called pain gating, which at the bare bones minimum is simply the body is getting a stimulus besides pain, and so it masks that pain. Marc Pro Plus, on the other hand, which is the difference in low frequency versus high frequency. Low is our muscle pump that's going to flush the junk out and bring the good stuff in. High frequency is purely for pain. Now we can switch these things up. This is easy to do on the Marc Pro. It's a very simple device. So you turn it on, you select your thing, and then you turn the dial. This one's quite a bit more complex in how we get the thing running. Is that getting uncomfortable?
It's just my quad's cramping up a little bit.
Let's dial you back a little bit. So the Marc Pro Plus actually minimizes pain by inhibiting the release of acetylcholine at the neurosynaptic junction. So what this means is your body can't actually produce a pain signal because what happens is when that neurotransmitter is released into the junction, once it hits the other side, the pain signal's off to the brain. It prevents that signal from ever crossing that gap. Versus the Compex does this in a way that it's just a fuzzy feeling on the skin, much like if you smash your thumb with a hammer and rub it, makes it feel a little better. You just flood the brain with sensory input. So Compex is going to mitigate pain while the device is on, whereas Marc Pro Plus is going to mitigate it while it's on and actually produce pain relief for several hours after you take it off, because it takes a while for the nervous system to kick back on for those pain signals. The other obvious differences you can see are size, and maybe some not so obvious for those who are new to these devices is the Marc Pro has 2 channels only, and the Compex has 4 channels. So arguably, this one can do more at the same time, but it is a little more complex to use. And when we do a more in-depth breakdown here in a minute, we'll talk through some of the pros and cons of more leads versus less leads and some of the complexities of both devices. But clinically speaking, we use the H-Wave, which is a medical FDA-approved device. It's the parent company of the Marc Pro Plus, and by all accounts are the same device. So clinically, we use H-Wave to help our patients and athletes who are in rehab with pain. If they come in for anything post-surgical and they have a lot of swelling, or they take an ankle tweak and they're kind of blown up, we will use H-Wave to help us control and flush swelling out of a joint, which decreases pain and improves muscle function. But for our athletes, from a self-care perspective, Marc Pro is our choice just because it mitigates pain in a much different way. And it allows the muscle to really increase blood flow and flush the junk out in a much different way. It targets fast twitch muscle only, whereas this one targets slow twitch muscle. So the longer you wear this device, the more that muscle is going to fatigue. You can wear the Marc Pro Plus all day. It's going to target fast twitch only, and there will be no muscle fatigue involved in that. And so those are some of the key differences functionally how these devices work. At the end of the day, clinically, we choose H-Wave, and for our athletes, as far as home care and self-management, we love the Marc Pro Plus.